Hi everyone, I'm getting set up to paint my still life of fruit in the realism style. So you can see I have my still life in front of me all set up, and I have my paints and my palette all ready. So you can see for painting in the realism style, you want a lot of colors on your palette. In this case, I have a paper plate palette. I have my assorted size brushes and some water to clean my colors off my brush in between changing colors. So let's get started. You can see I have my contour line drawing of my fruit in a bowl all set up and ready to go. You want to have your line drawing drawn very lightly so that you won't see your lines through the paint. So I'm getting ready to paint my pear, and you can see that I mixed some yellow and green together. I'm mixing my paint ahead of time on the palette to get just that right shade of green that I want to have on my pears. So I'm starting out with painting kind of the base coat, the first coat of my pears, to get that color down. Nice, smooth, long brush strokes. Now I always like to put the base coat down, kind of that first under painting for all the objects in my still life before I go back and add shadows. So now I'm cleaning my brush to get the color for the orange that's in the front. So I'm going to go ahead and mix some orange with a little bit of white to tone down the brightness of the orange, but I still want it to have a nice orange color. And you can see how I'm trying to make kind of brush strokes come in from the side to give it that round form. And now I'm going to go ahead and clean my brush to paint the red apple that's in the background. Now that I have all my first base layer down, I'm going to go back in and add some highlights and some shadows. Going to go ahead and mix a little bit of more of that mustardy color yellow with a little bit of brown, and maybe add a little tinge more of green in there. Get kind of more of a darker green coming in. I'm going to change the size of my brush and kind of go in with that same kind of brownish greenish color to paint the stem. And I have a little bit of a highlight up there towards the top. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of white in there. Now I'm going to come back in and work on my orange a little bit. I actually have a little bit of a reddish tint to my orange. And I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of brown mixing on my palette. You see, I always love to mix the color. You want to mix your colors on your paper plate palette to get that tint or shade, just that red. In this case, I'm looking for a darker orangey color towards the bottom. Create a little shadow. And there's a little shadow over here. Okay, so we pretty much have our fruit done, but I might go back in there a little bit later to add a little bit more shadows. I can see a little shadow here I want to add. And we can work on the dish. Now my dish is made of glass, but here's where you can add a little bit of artistic creativity. They call that artistic license, and add whatever color that you think. So I actually think I'm going to go ahead with red to pick up the red of the apple, to paint the rim of my bowl. And you want to have the right size brush to do this. And here's where you can add a little bit of water to your acrylic paint, not too much, just a little bit to smooth it out. There's the bottom of my dish right here. And you see a little bit of it right there. I'm adding just a little bit of black to my red to create a deeper shade of red to use as a shadow color. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of paint that right along the rim here of the inside of my bowl. So at this point in my project, I've decided to paint the background, and you want to make sure you have the right size brush. And since this is a realism piece, remember we want nice, smooth brush strokes, the kind of brush strokes that you don't really even see when they're finished. So nice, smooth brush strokes all the way across. I decided to go with a yellow background to kind of pick up the yellows that are in the pear and in the orange. And I'm just going to go ahead and paint them nice and smooth. You want to be very careful when you're painting around the edge of your objects. Might even be advantageous to add a little bit of water just to make it smooth, but you remember you only want to add a little bit of water if you're doing that. As you are finishing up your realism piece, whether you are creating a still life or a landscape, you want to think like an artist and think about the elements of art. In particular, color. For realism, have you used true to life colors, colors that you actually see in nature in your composition? Have you used the element of art value by adding shadows and highlights? In my painting, I have utilized the element of art space by adding the yellow wall as a background and placing my bowl of fruit on a table. You also want to think about the principles of design. Is there good contrast in your composition with the use of colors or the use of value? Do you have a variety of elements of art, such as a variety of shapes or a variety of colors? And have you thought about how everything is unified, how everything works together well? And the most important thing that you want to do is to be proud of your artwork. You can see and sign your artwork. You can see that I have signed my name right there, and I actually like to add my signature in my paintings as part of the composition rather than just sticking it towards the edge of the painting. So you might want to think about that. When you are finished your studio project, whether you have done the realism piece or the impressionist piece or the photography piece, submit your project along with your artist statement into the Dropbox.